Okay, it is Tegan at Upcycling Adventures, and today's video I'm going to show you how to make book page flowers. It's kind of a popular idea. It's been around for a while. I'm going to show you two different types. A kind of a fall flower or chrysanthemum style-ish flower, and then kind of the classic storybook rose as you see it found on the internet all the time. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I think it's a fun project, especially if you enjoy the feeling of hot glue on your fingers. So here we go. What you are going to need: some floral wire, hot glue gun, and sticks. Our trusty friend, the hot glue gun. An old book to cut up, or I guess you could do this with other paper, and you're gonna want to consider the thickness. If it's too thick, it may not work great, so you know, check out the pages. A pencil, I used a pencil, and also you're gonna want a pair of scissors that are decent. You're gonna want a pair of decent scissors to cut your paper, not your fabric scissors, decent scissors to cut paper for this project. So oh, also, for curling the petals on your storybook rose, you're going to want to use a toothpick. So, the first flower I'm going to show you is the kind of storybook rose, I guess is the term on the internet. It's a little bit easier than kind of the chrysanthemum or fall flower that I made here. So I'm going to show you that first, and for that you're going to need 2 pages out of a book, or 4 squares total. I'm going to show you how I cut a square using my ruler here. So the first thing I did, this is 2 pages. I took them and I folded them in half, hamburger style, I guess. And so I could see here with my ruler that it's about 4.5 inches wide. And so I want to make my book about that too. And I'm going to even up this for a second because I want as much lettering as possible. So I'm going to cut from here over. So actually it's going to be about all the letters. So it's 4.5. So once I cut down the center where it folded, I'm going to have 4 squares. So now that I have 4 squares of paper, one by one, I fold it in half diagonally one time. Going to match these corners again. And you can see that my square was not perfect, that things are not lining up into perfect points, and that's okay. I'm going to fold it one more time. So I'm folding it a total of 3 times, right? Yeah. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to mark it so you can see it, but I'm going to cut my petal. So you can see the shape I'm going to cut. I'm going to cut along that line, and where I scratched out, that's just going to be trash. And then I am also going to cut across the bottom to create a little bit of a hole at the bottom. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to take and cut out one of these petals. And I'm going to glue, I'm going to take these 2 petals and I'm actually going to completely overlap them and glue them in place with hot glue. And you can definitely feel the glue through the paper. It's going to hurt your fingers a little if you're not used to that. So there we go. Then I'm going to do that with the next one. Okay, so you can see the shape of this one turned out a little different, but I'm going to go with it. And in this one, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut out 2 petals, and I'm going to keep those lumped together. I'm going to do the same thing where I overlap. Set that aside. I'm going to do the same with this one. I'm going to fold it and cut out the petal shape, and then I'm going to cut it, I'm going to cut out 3 of the petals this time. And I kind of line it up before I add any glue to get an idea of how it's going to come together before my fingers are burning off with the hot glue. Okay, set that aside. Oh, glue strings. And I'm actually, with this one, I'm going to do that as well, but I am going to cut a little bit bigger slit because this one is going to go closer to the center. So I'm going to add a little bit of hot glue and overlap. Okay, sorry about that, my battery died. So I'm going to fold this one again, just like the others, and I'm going to cut it so there's 4 petals. I'm going to cut it in half so there are 4 petals on each one. And I'm going to glue, overlapping again, so I end up with something like that. Okay, so at this point you can see I have this many pieces to my flower. I'm going to, at this point, get out my toothpick, and I'm going to curl the petals back a little bit with the toothpick. So this is probably the trickiest part. You can see that there, that curl, and some of that will go away as you put it all together, but so I essentially kind of lightly pinch it around with a little bit of overlap, and then I kind of just roll like that. And then you just keep going and you curl all the petals. And when you get to where there's 2 of them, it's just the same process. You want to curl them not individually, just as one petal. Like that. So you just go through and curl all the petals. Okay, so now I have them all curled, and I'm going to take my biggest one, and I'm going to take my next biggest one. So this one has 6 petals, and this one has 5. I'm going to just glue them together. I'm going to put a little bit of glue in here and then just stick the other one in. Then I'm going to take my my flower part that has 4 petals, and I'm going to stick that one in next. You can see it coming together a little bit here. Okay. Next I'm going to take one that has 3. And I'm going to make sure to stagger it so that the petals, well, yeah, so the petals don't line up, that the cracks between the petals line up with the petals. Okay, and then now, got a bit right there, that's okay. I'm gonna take the one that has 2. It's coming together. Now I'm gonna get my floral wire ready. So I'm gonna grab some here, I'm gonna cut it off. And I'm gonna double it just because I want a little bit more weight. I should have gotten thicker wire. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this where the 2 ends come together. I'm going to wrap it around a pencil. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of scrap fabric in a color that kind of blends, and I'm going to wrap it around that and hot glue it in place. All right, you can see I've just kind of roughly covered that in fabric, and I'm going to stick it in the inside of my flower here, like that. So it just kind of blends, but it's nice to see just not floral wire, right? Like, I don't want to just see floral wire. So now I'm just going to glue this in place, and I'm actually going to glue it in place from the bottom. All right, moving on to the mum, or the fall flower. All right, so here is the more fall type flower. The biggest difference is there's one more fold, and the petals are cut in a slightly different shape. But because there's one more fold, it is more difficult to cut. So there is that. The other one's probably a little bit easier, even though the petal rolling is a little bit tedious. This I did not even roll the petals for. So, all right, let me show you how I did this. I'm going to start again with, I'm only going to use 3 squares about the same size, 4.5 by 4.5. So I'm going to cut those first, and then I will show you how I'd make the petals. So I'm going to take one, I'm going to fold it in half. I want to make sure to get nice crisp folds for this because it will make it easier to cut the petals and make that last fold as well. Folding it in half one more time. Folding it in half. Third time. Using my scissors here to help get a good fold there. And so if I was doing a rose, right, like I just did, I would go ahead and cut my petal now. But I'm going to do one more fold, keeping that at the center. Folding this edge to this edge. And what I'm doing with these scissors is I'm holding down that center point to kind of bring these together around my scissors. See if it will focus in. So I have the 2 edges lined up around my scissors. I'm going to remove them now. And there we go. You'll be able to see I'm just going to squeeze it to get that fold kind of gently at first. And then I will tighten that fold with my scissors once I have it in place a bit. Okay. So you can see it's a bit tighter and it's thicker here. There's many more layers of paper than with the Storybook Rose. So, and you can see too, it doesn't line up perfectly, but you know, it's not that big a deal. Petals are not perfect in nature. I don't know why we would want them to be in any other way, any other place. So, to this petal shape, let me go ahead and draw it out for you. So the goal is to have something that's more that shape. That is a longer, skinnier petal. So we want it, yeah, so a longer, skinnier petal. It's going to be trickier to cut, so make sure you have decently sharp scissors. And just take your time. There you go. Once again, I'm going to snip out some of that center. Gonna open it up. And it's a very different shaped flower. So to start with, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut out 3 of these petals. Then I'm going to take, I'm not going to overlap in the same way as I did for the rose. I'm not going to fully overlap the whole petal like that, like I did on the rose. Instead, I mean, you could, I guess, but for this one, I don't think it matters as much. I'm just kind of pivoting it at the, overlapping it a little bit at the bottom. And I'm going to put a dab of hot glue there. And there we go. And then I'm gonna fold another one. there is that. So now I'm going to cut out 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna glue it together. And that one actually ended up overlapping more throughout the whole petal. And set it aside. Okay, I'm gonna fold and cut one more time. All right, and this one I'm just gonna cut right in half. Take and glue. All right, and then I'm going to go back to this one of 4 here, and I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to cut off a bigger amount off the bottom there, and then I'm going to glue those together. It's a little trickier when there's less petals. Sometimes it's nice to have something inside besides your finger. So that's just a teeny tiny little inside bit. So now we're going to start putting them together. So yeah, we're going to start with the biggest, just like we did for the rose. Just putting a little bit of glue on there. Then we're going to get our next biggest, stick it in and push it in there. Okay, then I'm going to grab our next biggest, stick it in, feel the burn. So that's what I have. It's almost even like a dahlia or a chrysanthemum. I'm gonna fluff it a bit. Okay, so now I'm gonna get my floral wire ready again. And now I'm just gonna glue that in place. Pull that down in there. And I'm gonna glue that in place. So there is a fall flower. Okay, I hope that was a helpful tutorial, that you enjoyed watching it, if you're still watching. If you didn't enjoy watching it and you're still watching, I don't understand you at all. But if you are still here, please like the video, please subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to get some content up, and you know, comment if you have any questions or concerns or ponderings or what have you. So thank you for watching this far, and I will see you next time.